Hello, fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice Podcast. My name is El, and I return to speak on some spiritual philosophy and relate it to the Law of One material and, share with you some of my life and perspective and things that I've learned. So today, I would like to talk about some spiritual seeking pitfalls or stumbling block, whatever you'd like to call it. It's sort of a common mistake, if you may say, that most of us will make or do make, and it's really tied to actually even conspiracy theories and things like that. Not to say that most conspiracy theories aren't probably true, but there's a lot of them that maybe aren't true. And even if they are, we're going to talk about why it's maybe not as important as you think. And I guess we will sort of relate this when I read the quote to you about how you are infinite, the illusion of separation, seeking specific information, things along those lines. So let's start with the quote. This is going to be from session 26.36 from the Law of One material. You can get this information for free on my website, theoneinfinitecreator.com, and there's links to the LL Research group who gives us all of this for free, so thank you to them. So this is 26.36, and I'll give a little prelude. I mean, the question I don't even want to read to you because it's just going to get us off topic. You'll see why in a second. It's basically the questioner asks something about UFOs and things like this of a physical nature and just basically stuff that maybe doesn't seem so important to Ra. So Ra answers to them asking for sort of specific information, which you can link to conspiracy theories in your head if you want. Ra says this: "We can only ask each group to consider the relative effect of philosophy and your so-called specific information. It is not the specificity of the information which attracts negative influences, it is the importance placed upon it. This is why we iterate quite often, when asked for specific information, that it pales to insignificance, just as the grass withers and dies, while the love and the light of the one infinite Creator redounds to the very infinite realms of creation forever and ever, creating and creating itself in perpetuity. Why then be concerned with the grass that blooms, withers, and dies in its seasons, only to grow once again due to the infinite love and light of the one infinite Creator? This is the message which we bring. Each entity is only superficially that which blooms and dies. In the deeper sense, there is no end to beingness." End of quote. So you can see in this, they don't even actually answer their question about the UFOs and things like this. Basically, what Ra is saying, in my opinion, is that I'll highlight it here. We can only ask each group to consider the relative effect of philosophy and your so-called specific information. So if you see here, they're talking about sort of the difference between philosophy and specific information. Spiritual philosophy, which I would consider to be like infinite. It would be like things that are timeless. Things like love and unity and cooperation and life lessons that will stick with you for a long time. These are sort of infinite things, whereas what you ate for lunch today and what the gossip of the day is and what's on the news and things like this and technical, conspiracy theories, things like that, it's not that they're necessarily negative. They may be true, right? But you sometimes will place more importance on the specific information type things instead of the spiritual philosophy and the infinite things. So in other words, you're sort of putting too much importance on the finite and overshadowing the infinite, which is love. Love is infinite. So I can do this myself with conspiracy theories and the news and whatever it is of the day, the current thing, as they say, right? I can get a little bit upset that, my fellow human beings around me are sort of, in my opinion, being misled and tricked and confused by a negative elite. And so then I get all upset about that and try to point out specifics about how, this is corrupt and that is corrupt. And then what happens is, well, it seems to lead to issues in my life where then people focus on those specific information things that I've shared, maybe on my social media, instead of just like remembering that I love them and I care for them and, that is of sort of prime importance, not necessarily who's politician that they're voting for, but you know a lot of people, and I kind of take it for granted sometimes, maybe just because even though I can see somebody with opposite politics and sort of these people that seek very finite things and specific information, but I'm okay to still connect with them and love them and sort of look beyond the husk and look to the heart of the seed that they are, that infinite potential of which they are. But I forget sometimes that they aren't doing that to me. They're just seeing the husk, the illusion of separation, and I'm being a tool for that. I'm putting power behind that instead of trying to do what I should, which is to just, show people that I love them and that I care for them. And then maybe through my actions and the way that I live, they'll see that maybe my politics are something to look into instead of, me trying to like coerce them into something or show them some kind of conspiracy theory, which seems elaborate and is supposed to sort of wake them up, but only instead just, makes them more fearful and scared and upset. So there's tons of information out there. There's an infinite amount of information out there. It's like, what do you use that information to do? Do you use it to grow yourself and humble yourself and learn about love more? I mean, then that to me is sort of what the lesson is in this whole quote and this law of one type stuff. So I will continue on here with just sort of rereading some of it to you. They say, it is not the specificity of the information which attracts negative influences, it is the importance placed upon it. So like I just said, remember, it can still be true, right? 'Cause I'm not saying conspiracy theories aren't true. I'm a fan of them. I love looking into them. I've just sort of learned over like 10 years how to balance the way I think about them. I used to think that they were prime importance, and I was being led astray, right? I was basically being led away from the heart. What is the goal of this density, this third density? After we've made the choice to serve others or serve the self, we make our way into the heart. What do negative entities do? They neglect the heart. Well, what would a negative entity want you to do? Probably to stay out of your heart. Well, my friends, you can see how this can be tricky, where you can be dealing with truth, but you still have to always make sure that like the wisdom and the truth is softened with love, with compassion, with understanding, with connection between, a good hug first, and then we can talk about politics and conspiracies. Okay, so that's why they say right here, this is why we iterate quite often when asked for specific information, it pales to insignificance. Just as the grass withers and dies, while the love and the light of the one infinite creator redounds to the very infinite realms of creation forever and ever, creating it and creating itself in perpetuity. And so, end of quote for that part. We live in an infinite creation is my understanding, and the whole idea is that the creator may know itself, and part of that, the center of creation, is love. And so the creator knows itself through love, whether love of self or love of other self sort of doesn't matter, but it's just that there's a great experiment of love going on, and after this experiment is gone, we will enter another experiment or experience, if you will, into the lessons of love in another infinite dimensional way. It sort of doesn't matter, but that's the point, is that the more that we focus on the finite, the more difficult it is to see the big picture of unity, of that this is a illusion of separation, which is very convincing, but the lesson is love, my friends. The lesson is love. So why then be concerned with the grass that blooms, withers, and dies in its season, only to grow once again due to the infinite love and light of the one infinite creator? This is the message we bring. Each entity is only superficially that which blooms and dies. In the deeper sense, there is no end to beingness. So you can see, even in terms of death, I sometimes also take for granted that I believe these things, I believe in these things, obviously, like I can't prove them to you to be true, but I sometimes take for granted that others can't really see or believe or understand that they are infinite and that everyone else is an infinite being. Whether that comes to losing your pet or a loved one or even dealing with death yourself, it's good to remember that as convincing as this illusion is, and the pain and suffering that comes at those times, there is still reason for it. It's not just pointless suffering. There is a reason for it, and the reason is love. And sometimes it's difficult to see the love in the moment. But if you've listened to other podcasts, there's exercises 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I think the first exercise is to see the love in the moment, right? This is an illusion of separation, but the illusion was created for lessons of love, so you can find love in the moment. And I would suggest that if you can't find the love in the moment, maybe there is an opportunity for you to be the love in that moment. So I guess I don't want to make this one too long. I'm feeling a little bit tired today. I'm sorry I didn't post a ton last week, and maybe this podcast is a little bit late. I had to go visit some family members, and it sort of took me out of my natural cycle of things, and I'm running a little bit behind in terms of preparing a wonderful, thought-out, beautiful podcast. In fact, this one was quite spontaneous today. I do have a number of podcast ideas written down for the future, but this one, I just actually, I like the spontaneity, as you are probably heard me talk about before. So today, I actually found some art that I really enjoyed. It just gave me a wonderful feeling looking at it. It's a scene of nature. You'll probably see it on the Instagram post. And I just look at that art, and I then thought of what Law of One quote comes to my mind, and it was this one, the one like, why then be concerned with the grass that blooms, withers, and dies, and its season only again to grow due to the infinite love of the one infinite creator. I think that was actually one of the first quotes that I ever posted on the Law of One Instagram page. I guess it was many years ago. That was the one that really stuck out to me the most, that I felt was like the first one that I wanted to share with everyone, because it's just so beautiful. It really is. Like, I'm a gardener myself, and it's true. Like, I don't know if you have like a rose bush, the rose dies. The rose is absolutely this wonderful, beautiful manifestation of nature, second density of love, as you can see it just looking at it, right? And then it dies, and it's maybe sad, and the petals fall to the ground, and the winter comes, but then it seems that all hope is lost, and the winter's there, and there's just dead branches, and how could anything survive the winter? I live in Canada, where there is a harsh winter, so it's always just amazing to see the next year come around. This rose bush, which has its deep roots into the ground, then just pops out a new plant and is a wonderful, beautiful, just as wonderful as the last year that it grew. So I guess that is sort of the lesson or the theme of this podcast, which is just to remember you are an infinite being. You are infinitely worthy. You are a infinite portion of love, and we are here to learn the lessons of love. So, try your best to not get caught up on little specific things between you and others, and even within yourself. When you find yourself getting really concerned about the details of the day, as you may say, step back, take a breath, think, or just try not to think for a moment. Have a moment to just sit back and meditate and realize that you are an infinite being, and you've been around forever, and you will be around forever. And the illusion of separation, your body will change over time, the experience will change, but you will always be you, and you are a beautiful being. And I really just want you to understand that, because I know a lot of my friends and family, they deal with low self-worth, and it is just so important to see yourself as a being of infinite worth, because you can't really have your roots deep in the ground. It's so easy to get blown over by the winds and the gusts in the winter if you don't recognize that infinite aspect of yourself. And it sort of also gives you this sort of dumb faith, which says that, hey, no matter what happens to me, the creator, I'm in the creator's hands, because we are infinite and all is well. So, my friends, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please give it a like. Always helps with the algorithm, having people see it. And, leave me a comment if you'd like to let me know what you'd think about it, or maybe you want to hear a future podcast topic. I'm always all ears. I read all the comments. I don't always get to respond right away, but you better believe that I smile. And, I really love reading the wonderful feedback and things that you guys share with me. So, yeah, the One Infinite Creator.com. If you want to support this podcast, I have a Patreon, a one-time PayPal thing. And I guess I should just mention here that when I was visiting my family, I had a friend that I reconnected with who was having some health issues. So I am sort of thinking of, putting a portion of the Patreon funds over to him for, maybe a couple of months or something like that. Or even just shooting him like a one-time gift of abundance of love so that he can keep affording his therapies to get better again. So, if you, I guess, I don't know, I'm just thinking of this right now, right? But you might as well, now is always better than later, I suppose. So if you wanted to do even like a one-time PayPal thing for that, and you leave a little message that's saying that this is for Jeff, this is, I will make sure that he gets that because, he just had like, he got like COVID a couple years ago, and then it just like something attacked his spine and he couldn't walk. And he's like a young guy, like 30 years old. It's very concerning. He's a very healthy guy, and all of a sudden, it's taking like 2 years of therapy. He's finally walking again, but it's like money's starting to become an issue. And so I just see an opportunity to serve, right? There's light and there's dark out there. And sometimes when you see the darkness, it is darkness, but it is an opportunity to serve. And so I'm going to try to make light out of the dark, and you can help me with that. So yeah, if you'd like to contribute to it, it's basically just going to go towards paying for his therapies, his physical therapies, which he has like 2 of them that he goes to every 2 weeks. And so yeah, you guys, I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this community. Supporting me means the world to me, that you guys like to listen to these ramblings and thoughts, and they seem to make sense to you and serve you. So I seek to serve. Thank you guys. Take care.